Hi guys, Forbidden Door is next Sunday, so let's talk about my predictions. Now, Ospreay versus Swerve for the men's Owen Hart tournament final. Winner gets a world title shot at All In London. I have Ospreay winning here. I think we can all see the writing on the wall here. But what makes this match interesting, and it's something that I don't think enough people are talking about, is the actual history between these two. 2 years ago at Forbidden Door 2024, Ospreay went up against Swerve Strickland for the AEW World Championship, and Swerve beat Ospreay. That was one of the biggest matches in Ospreay's AEW run, and he fell short in it. Now, 2 years later, they're back at the same event, the same stage, and the stakes are even bigger. Their face-to-face on Dynamite was genuinely great. Swerve went at Ospreay for training with the Death Riders, the same group that put him on the shelf with the neck injury over the last year, and Ospreay's answer was honest. He said he hasn't forgotten what they did to him. He hasn't forgiven it, but he's accepted their help because it's been working and his neck feels better. So it's basically like, I don't like you, I don't forgive you, but you know, I'm getting this thing out of it, so might as well go with it. And Swerve, who teamed up with Ospreay at All In Texas last year, is now a full heel and essentially just doesn't care about that. The story here writes itself. Swerve is trying to stop Ospreay from having his Wembley moment. He said that it's his World Cup semifinal, which I mean, you know, we've been there. But yeah, I have Ospreay winning the Owen Hart tournament and getting to Wembley. And then he has his moment there. Now let's talk about Kenny Omega versus Zack Sabre Jr. This match has bigger implications than just the match itself. Kenny Omega lost to MJF at Dynasty in April. It was one of the best matches in my opinion that AEW had put on in a while. 39 minutes, match of the year stuff, and Omega still lost. Maxwell kicked out of the one-winged angel. Since then, Omega has barely been on TV. He did Stadium Stampede at Double or Nothing, and that's basically it. There have been backstage moments of him and Ospreay talking about what it feels like when your window to be a world champion might be closing. Then Zack Sabre Jr. sent him a challenge in the form of a vignette on Dynamite. He quoted an REM song at him, "Where's the frequency, Kenneth?" and asked whether Omega could still call himself the best. They haven't wrestled each other since the G1 Climax in 2018 and never once in the United States. Omega beat Zack Sabre Jr.'s TDMK teammate Bad Dude Tito on Collision as a tune-up, and then he squashed this guy, I don't remember his name, but he squashed him on Dynamite as well. So yeah, I think Kenny is pretty locked in. Now there's a pay-per-view in July called AEW Redemption, which is going to be at the Bell Center in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And the belief which I share is that Omega is being set up to challenge MJF for the world title there in front of his home crowd. If that's the destination, you need Omega looking strong right now, which means he has to beat Zack Sabre Jr. at Forbidden Door. Zack Sabre Jr. is one of the best technical wrestlers on the planet. He's been at every single Forbidden Door and he has picked up some major victories there. But losing to Kenny Omega on his comeback trail, especially if Kenny goes on to win the world title at Redemption in Montreal, does nothing to hurt him. I have Omega winning. I think AEW is setting up the table for something big in July. Alright, so the teams for the Team MJF versus Team Mark Briscoe steel cage match are confirmed. So let's talk about it. Team MJF is essentially the entire Don Callis family. Kevin Knight, Kyle Fletcher, Kazuchika Okada, Andrade, and Jack Doyle, which I'm glad that he's in there. All paid mercenaries essentially. MJF doesn't even like half of them. Andrade looked visibly unhappy about being on this team on Dynamite. And some people criticized that they shouldn't have done the 12-man tag team match on Dynamite, but I'm glad that they did because it showed the cracks in MJF's team despite the fact that they won. Team Briscoe has his conglomeration teammates, Orange Cassidy, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong alongside Darby Allin and Konosuke Takeshita. And there's some real stories there. Takeshita especially wants Kyle Fletcher and Okada, and Darby wants MJF for beating him for the world title and Kevin Knight for attacking him later that night. Dynamite. There's actually a lot to follow inside of that cage, and I do think that Team Briscoe wins it so that it sets Briscoe up for a world title shot on an episode of Dynamite. I think the babyfaces get to stand tall, and the individual storylines within the cage give the match real stakes beyond just the result. My one thing with this match, and I'll be honest, is that it's all AEW wrestlers. It's 12 guys on a card that's supposed to be like two worlds colliding. The main event is just which I'm gonna assume that it's the main event, is just 12 AEW guys in the cage. That honestly feels a bit off to me. It could have been any AEW pay-per-view, but let's see what they do with it. But yeah, I have Team Briscoe winning here. Okay, Jon Moxley versus Bandido. So before we get into the prediction, let me just tell you what happened. So Bandido and Brody King, who team as Bro-Dido, which is a fantastic name for any tag team, took on Jon Moxley and Daniel Garcia on Dynamite. Bandido pinned Garcia, and right after, Bandido, who is also the Ring of Honor World Champion, stepped up and challenged Moxley for the Continental title at Forbidden Door. Moxley accepted, but he set the terms. It's Continental Championship rules. No Brody King, no Death Riders, no interferences, just them. Moxley retains. I think that's obvious. But this match has the potential to genuinely surprise people, because stylistically, these two are completely different. Bandido is pure lucha libre, fast, creative, unpredictable, while Moxley is gonna try to get him on the ground and make it ugly. That contrast, I think, can produce something genuinely great. I'd say don't skip this match, assuming you know how it ends. It might be the sleeper of the night. Copeland and Christian Cage versus the Dogs AEW Tag Team Championships. This one has a bit of a fun backstory. So Copeland and Christian Cage won the tag titles at Double or Nothing from FTR. The Dogs, David Finlay and Clark Connors, interrupted their 5-second pose celebration on Dynamite and attacked them, and then did the pose themselves in mockery. So on Dynamite this week, Cope and Cage came out and jumped the Dogs before they could even make their entrance. And then Christian grabbed the microphone and made it clear in a very Christian way that this challenge was personal. I have Cope and Cage retaining, but I do think that the Dogs are gonna make this competitive. Finlay and Connors are genuinely good, and they've been on a great run recently, and I think that this is a match that could go either way on the night. But I do think that Cope and Cage retain here, and they're setting up something big for All In with like a ladder match with FTR, the Dogs, the Young Bucks, Cope and Cage, and yeah. Thekla versus Starlight Kid, AEW Women's World Championship. Okay, so the storyline here is genuinely great, and I didn't realize it before I started looking into it for this video. Thekla was fired by Stardom, and she's been in AEW ever since. Won the Women's World Championship and has spent weeks trashing her former promotion, spitting on their logo, wishing death on the company, calling out the president. Tony Schiavone actually tried to go on TV to apologize to Stardom on behalf of AEW. Thekla cut him off and said that she wasn't apologizing to anyone. She challenged the Stardom locker room to send their best, and Stardom responded by sending Starlight Kid. Here's the thing, Starlight Kid holds a 2-0 record over Thekla from their time in Stardom. Thekla is not walking into this against someone she has history with in the way that she'd like. She's walking into it against someone who's already beaten her twice. Tekla's response to the challenge was, "I'm gonna leave you for dead and spit on your grave." I have Thekla retaining, but the match has more going on underneath the surface than I had initially thought. Starlight Kid's AEW debut, the 2-0 record, Stardom's president apparently being invited to watch ringside. There's certainly something here. Mercedes Moné versus Athena or Maya World, Women's Owen Hart Cup final. Now, while I'm recording this, the episode of Collision where Athena and Maya World are supposed to take on each other has not come out yet, but that's not gonna change my winner. Mercedes beat Hazuki in the semi-final on Dynamite this week in a match that got over 20 minutes, and by all accounts was genuinely excellent. And I have Mercedes Moné winning the Owen Hart Cup. Winner gets the world title shot at Wembley, and I have Mercedes Moné going up against Thekla at All In, which is a matchup that we haven't seen before, and I'm very excited to see what these two do together. So yeah, Mercedes is going to Wembley, nothing complicated. So that's the card as it stands. I believe there are going to be more matches announced on this episode of Collision and on the Go Home episode of Dynamite, but the big stuff is already there. Honestly, I think that Ospreay versus Swerve is going to be the main event, and that alone makes it worth watching. And the Omega storyline running through the whole summer is genuinely fascinating, and I think that this Forbidden Door genuinely has a real chance of being a step toward what 2022 or 2023 were. So my full review of Forbidden Door 2026 is gonna go up shortly after the show. You guys can drop your predictions in the comments, and you guys can follow me on Instagram at NightWakeYT if you guys want to connect with me on a more personal level. The link's gonna be in the description. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Also, or before I close this video out, I've started this playlist on my channel called The Art of Wrestling, in which it's like a big catalog of great wrestling matches. So I want you guys to actually comment matches that should get added to that catalog. So you guys can go through it. The link's gonna be in the description, and you guys can go through that and let me know what matches you guys want me to add to it, and I will certainly add them. I've already added some from you guys, and I want to add more, so please let me know. I want to make this like a mega collection of just great matches that we as a community have built up. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.